Good day everyone, Loki here once again with another video. A first look of some kinds, something that I haven't made for a while, of Skul, the Hero Slayer, which is a 2D platformer roguelite where you are in fact the Hero Slayer. You are not the good guys, you're the bad guys, and you are going out there to slay all the heroes that are out there. It is an interesting game. I played it for about 5 hours. It is published by NEOWIZ, developed by SouthPAW Games, which I'm pretty sure is just part of NEOWIZ, but I could be wrong on that. There's very little to find about the developer. NEOWIZ, which most recently is known as, in the MMORPG sphere as that company that totally failed to publish Bliss Online properly over here in the West, then went on to publish Bliss Unleashed on the Xbox One, which runs on a newer engine than Bliss Online ever did, which kind of solves a lot of its issues, but oh well. Outside of that, NEOWIZ hasn't really done too much. They've recently published a bunch of mobile games. They have published Black Squad, which is a Counter-Strike-like game, which actually is pretty fun. I've played about 400 hours of that, so I can attest that that is quite a decent game. And they also are the publisher of a couple of Korean free-to-play games, which, if you are in the West, you don't know about. Also, they have all since long shut down. I think one of the more notable ones being Battlefield Online, which, of course, if you know Battlefield, it's essentially a Battlefield 2 remake made in the Battlefield 2142 engine, and it looks pretty good. Or it looked pretty good, because it only lasted about 3 years and shut down in 2013. So there was that, I suppose. Anyway, let's get into the game. It is a roguelite, as I said, so you have your witch, which is your leader person, where you can spend your dark quartz, which is currency that you earn during the game, on various different skills. You start out fairly weak, and then you slowly build yourself up. I've played about 5 hours of this game so far, and this is how far I've got. I'm by no means good, and as with a lot of roguelites, how far you get is actually largely determined by luck. If you get the right items, you can absolutely smash. If you get the right skulls, which is a very interesting mechanic in this game, then you can get yourself pretty far as well. One of the things that is pretty notable is that by default your dodge, or your dash rather, I don't think has any invincibility, and as you can see right here, with 2 points in the skill, you have 0.4 seconds invincibility, which actually is a pretty decently long amount of time as far as dash invincibility goes. So that is a pretty big effect. There are quite a couple of big effects, such as this one, which I actually haven't tried yet. I've only just unlocked this, where when you swap between your skulls, you actually get a little bit of a slowdown, apparently, which is interesting as well. Now, you might be saying, skulls, or schools, as the game would like to be titled. Well, you see, you are a newbie skeleton that's just weak and frail and only control their own head and then teleport over to it, which somehow just failed on me. So let's try that again. There we go. But you have the special ability to just equip your fallen comrades' heads and all of a sudden become them. So right here we have this totally not Kratos TM skull that we just got for free from one of our buddies that we have found out in the field, and as you can see, we now have a gigantic sword, and it also has its own attack, which is kind of a jump slash in this case. Those attacks can actually differ. You can get the same skull but with different active attacks on it, and as you can see, they also have a passive, so in this case attack increases by up to 30% in proportion to the number of nearby enemies. So the warrior is kind of meant as a multi-character slapping type of character, which is interesting. Your basic dude, your basic outfit doesn't have a passive. Also, apparently, tackle, dash attack, can't multi-dash. So yeah, so there are certain rules to certain of these characters as well. As you can see in this case, your dash is replaced by kind of this dash into the enemy, which charges into them. I assume also damages them, but you cannot double dash, where if we are Skull Bro, we can double dash, which is interesting. I am not the biggest fan. I will preface this. I am not the biggest fan of most of the warrior designated skulls. So as you can see, the warrior or the power designated skulls, they're all like a little bit too slow, in my opinion, in combination with then usually kind of hurting your dash potential to get out of stuff. So I am not a big fan of this. So likely if we find a different Skul, I'll be changing this one out fairly quickly. Then from the second dude right here, our ogre friend, we will get ourselves a first item, which in this case is a rare item. Nice. Killing an enemy causes a 30% chance, or has a 30% chance of causing an explosion and damaging nearby enemies, and also gives us 30 extra HP, which that is pretty decent. So let's go down there and let's get started. So the way this game works is typical roguelite stuff. Essentially, the levels are randomized, but it is important to keep in mind that they kind of work with stages, so you'll see fairly quickly it's kind of stage-based beat-em-up stuff, and you might not be a fan of that. I know that that is definitely the #1 complaint that I've seen. It is fairly unimaginative design-wise when it comes down to it. I could probably swap here. Actually, I should try out the swapping and then slowing down the stuff. Those explosions don't hurt you, but they do hurt the enemy, so you can kind of just run in there and slap him. And slap him. Oh, in this case, we instantly got ourselves a room with a different Skul, which is the Skeleton Bomber. Which that is a character that I think is new, because I haven't seen that in the past. Which apparently bombs stuff when you swap out of it. And they also spawn some dummies right here, as you can see. Where you can then... Oh, okay, so you swap to it, it automatically starts bombing. Or it actually explodes. And then you swap back. Let's see what it says. Skeleton Bomber. Oh, you know how to have a blast. Set a bomber while looking at a Carlium powder keg. Explodes after 5 seconds. Roll increased dashing distance. Can't multi-dash. And then it also has a movement speed increased by 100% for 4 seconds when swapping, so essentially you are meant to just run in there like crazy. Creates a flame that causes damage and burns nearby enemies. Yeah, so they've also kind of been consistently adding new characters, so that is pretty interesting. So yeah, you're really just meant to run in there. I'd be curious to know if you can get hurt while you run in there. Let's see. Yeah, so we can get hurt, which that is a little bit inconvenient. I'm not the biggest fan of that, because that means that you have to somehow fill that time to then hopefully explode right between them. Although I guess if we just jump around. Oh, I kind of just rolled into the archer. Yeah, so that's really awkward if you have enemies that are planning attacks. Especially with the dashing distance being so large. That is pretty extreme. So, there we go. We got our first quintessence, so I should have actually shown this. You can carry 6 passives, and they can equip 1 quintessence, which does have a passive as well, but it also has an active. So in this case, the passive is that you are, you got 5% less So the passive in this case is that you get 5% less incoming damage, and the active is that you are immune for 10 seconds from trap damage. I would have preferred those the other way around, which as far as I know, they do exist. You do have ones where you straight up take less or no trap damage, and then you activate it for less normal damage. But not today. Not today. Also, as you can see right there, you have those totems standing around. By default, they are buffing the enemy. But when you destroy them, they actually start buffing you, which, that is pretty nifty. I'm gonna see, can we explode them? Ooh, that takes a lot of poison damage. Yeah, planning around the bomb is, yeah, no. Not my thing. So we're just gonna be sticking inside of a regular normal mode, which kind of is a shame because some of the classes that are out there are actually really good. Actually, maybe the blowing up right here does work nicely with... Oh, of course he does the downwards attack. So yeah, it does seem to kill the big guys in what essentially is one go. So that is actually really strong. There we go. We found ourselves a shop. So you have the shopping area, which also is one of the random things that spawns, where you can either buy yourself some different passives or different quintessence right there in the top right, which we don't have enough money for, and also has a couple of different other NPCs that spawn, including this one here right in the middle, which allows you to change a skull out. So in this case, I can change out the werewolf, or the bomb with the werewolf. So now he has become the bomber, which is strange, and we got the werewolf, which the werewolf is actually pretty decent. It does have another active ability as well, other than this one, where you can actually leap across the screen, which I like that one a little bit better, but even in this form, it's still pretty nice. You essentially can cause a bleed to the enemy with the active. You have the wild sprint, which instantly dash a certain distance in invincible mode upon swapping, so if we swap over to him, you'll see that after the cooldown is done, we'll just instantly dash in invincibility mode. So that is pretty nifty. And also just in general, he has 20% extra movement speed and increased dashing distance. So that's pretty alright. Let's see, what shall we pick up? We can also get food right here. This one restores 20% HP, increased back attack damage by 50% for 3 maps. That could also be pretty decent. How much gold do we have? 342, yeah. So sadly we cannot buy an item and then at the same time buy food. That is kind of a shame. I think we'll go for the attack speed. I am not going to be too worried about the damage that we're taking right now, although I should definitely be worried about the damage that we're taking, because I am taking too much damage. On the bright side... Oh, we just jumped into that one. On the bright side, we now have a little bit of a better attack speed, which allows us to beat up these enemies a little bit nicer, a little bit quicker, a little bit better. Then we also have our active, which puts a bleed on them, which honestly for most of these enemies, as long as you're not fighting the big guys, is kind of unnecessary. But I guess it's also a double slash, so it's not the worst. We'll put a bleed on this one. Okay, there we go. Put that bleed back on. I kind of wish that bleed maybe increase your attack speed against that particular enemy as well, but maybe that's too much wishful thinking. Oh, we just got smashed into the wall. Let's see, I think this counts as a trap, so if I press R1, that shouldn't hurt me. There we go. Oh! Yeah, so this is a special room that you got as well. You don't have to help him. But if you don't help him, you also don't get an item, so... You know, and of course you would want to gain as many items as possible, so... Oh, well, until you have 6 items anyway. Once you get to 6 items, then every item beyond that is kind of a mess to deal with. There we go. Oh, we have another quintessence in this case. Movement speed increased by 10%. And then it has a flash teleport forward and cause damage on the way up. Oh, that's not the right R1. Let's try that again. Okay. Interesting. I mean, I guess we'll do it for the extra movement speed. And maybe that damage is actually really nice. I am not sure. Oh, so here we have the first hero. So essentially these heroes are like your mini-bosses. They do take a little bit to get used to. They all have their own little attack patterns. In this case, this guy shoots balls that do follow you. He does this little explosion as well. You will get to the point where you're fighting 2 heroes at the same time, which actually gets surprisingly difficult. Oh, he's gonna heal himself. We don't have the best pickups. As far as I've seen, your best bet as far as dealing with bosses goes is getting yourself a Skul that has a ranged attack. Because ranged attack in general are just... Ooh, I took that. Ranged attacks in general just seem to be very, very, very good at dealing with these enemies. Because you can kind of stay safely from a distance. But there we go, there's the first mini-boss done, which also gets us an item right here, which we got ourselves a 30 HP increase, and also some healing, so that is pretty alright. And we get a Skul right after, which in this case is just a sword Skul. Now, I have only switched out my second one, mainly because I didn't like the Skul that we got, but you kind of want to change out your basic one as well, especially because your basic dude doesn't really have a passive, or that great of an active. You have your throwing Skul, but that's about it. So let's switch out her basic, which... Not that this warrior is the best, you know, your basic sword common dude, but it's alright. In this case, we rolled another bleed on it. He can also have a different attack, but it seems like this run in particular just wants us to run with short attack ranges and bleeds, which is not the best. Let's see, what is the swapping skill? Attacks, bleed enemies. Okay, so you have 5 seconds of just every attack bleeding the enemy. Alright, that's alright. That is also another thing that I haven't really been using too much, mainly because I am not too used to it yet, but you do have this skill, of course, where if you swap out the character that you're playing with, you slow down everyone. So I should probably make more use of that. Oh! Whoa, the door was open and then two fire wizards spawned. How rude. Anyway, I shall be clearing through this. There's, I think 3 stages. As you just saw, we cleared the first stage. So essentially you have 2 mini-bosses and then you have the proper boss. I will play through this, and I'll see you guys again once we are at the proper first boss. Oh yeah, so quickly before we get to the boss as well, we're still in the second stage right here, but here we have the Minotaur, which is another one of the slower power dudes, which I am not a fan of the power dudes. I think they're all too slow. They even have like minus movement speed, which is not exactly great, but just to show you the variety and different Skuls that are available in this game. You can be a very slow, tramply type of dude. I almost feel like those types of Skuls would actually be pretty decent if you had like a co-op partner. Which, to be clear, the game doesn't have any co-op in it, but I think if it did, then somebody playing one of those slower characters would actually, you know, make some kind of sense. Anyway, I'll see you guys again in just a moment. Alright, so we just got into another one of these Skul rooms and we found ourselves an Aqua Skul. And this is another power one, which I guess is instantly feelable and it's very slow attacks that we got going on. But every single hit builds up this blue meter that we got there at the bottom, which then shoots out one of these water bits at the bottom. Let's see. Attacking enemies fills a gauge that when maxed out unleashes a wave that carries enemies away. And then the active, or the swapping, is swapping causes nearby enemies to be sprayed with water and pushed back. And the active is creates a wave that pulls enemies in closer. So yeah, in this case, these guys can't move, so there's little for me to pull in closer, but... okay, so that has a small attack range. Let's see how this character performs if we are inside here. Okay, so there we did our pulling. Yeah, definitely, I would definitely say the slowness is what definitely kills this character for me. Because, oh my, that movement speed. Also, I'm very good at dunking myself into the spikes, apparently. Like this. I did it again. Thanks, Explodey Barrel. Just what I needed. So yeah, the little tidal wave that goes around just hurts them. Yeah, I think especially the damage is better than your speedy characters, but at the same time, it's not that much bigger to where you're like, oh man, I really need to use the power characters. So, I am not sure. Anyway, we're coming upon the first boss right here, so let's go and do it. This first boss isn't too big of a problem if I remember correctly. Of course, now that I said it, I'm gonna fill. Sadly, we do not really have a ranged attack, which not having a ranged attack makes pretty much every boss fight lots more annoying. Like, having a ranged attack is very good. Yeah, our first fight is against Yggdrasil. I never know how to pronounce his name. His first attack is essentially just throwing his hand out. Gotta just run sideways. Also now he slaps. And then he slaps again. Now he's gonna launch some balls at our face. Which, because we have our invulnerability, we can actually dash through quite nicely. And then we can just slap him. You can actually see which side he's gonna slap from by him charging. There we go, as long as we run sideways, not really a problem. Sadly, our damage input is really poor. Like, really poor. Oh, I jumped a little bit too slow again. Let's see. Actually, I should probably just stand on the arm, shouldn't I? I thought before these actually... Oh, that's unfortunate. I thought before you couldn't stand on these, but apparently you can. We'll just slap. Oh, nice. Not so nice, but we can have it. We can tank it, and then we can just jump up into his face to do the final couple of hits. As the very first boss fight, it is not all that difficult if you have some upgrades. I would still say you can absolutely, and I have as well, absolutely just one-shot perfect these bosses as long as you have a ranged class, which sadly we do not have at the moment. So anyway, then we come upon the second stage, the Grand Hall, which essentially has the same types of enemies, just slightly reskinned. I would say that is probably its biggest weakness. It does a lot of reskinning of enemies and kind of goes from there. It does have a couple of unique ones, like, for example, you have this mage, which shoots a large ball at you, which usually they try to place those out of reach, which, you know, of course, is to become extra rude. And the large guys do get an extra attack where they slap the ground, so there are a couple of differences in that sense, but they all are essentially slight reskins with slight upgrades. And that's about it. Also, I am absolutely just gonna eat that. You don't have to get up here, but I mean, there's gold up here, you know. There's gold up here. Anyway, hopefully you guys got yourself an idea of what the game is like. I would say it is quite an enjoyable game, although there is definitely a case of, you know, repeatableness that you have to keep in mind with this game. You know, it is a roguelite. It is a roguelite. You're going to see the first couple of stages quite a couple of times before you get any further. They have, since launch, they have kind of rebalanced things and made things easier. So You're gonna get further right now, even when you're not doing that well. But you're going to be fighting in the same areas quite a lot, and yeah, if you're okay with that, it's a fun game. There's a lot of different ones. In this case, we actually found a unique class. The samurai is actually pretty decent. Like, you can do some quite nice things with this. But once again, I would say the main thing I would say that you will very much experience is that you will have runs where you don't find the skulls that you want. You don't find the skulls that you want, and then because you haven't found the skulls that you want, ooh, life is rough. Life is rough, but what can also happen is that you start a new run. You start a new run, and right here at the start, the fox drops you a unique. In this case, I got a rare, which actually, this is one of the decent ranged ones. So, but yeah, he can drop a flaming skull, and you can be riding around in the motorcycle from the get-go, or he can drop you the samurai or the ninja, and they're all really, really pretty good. So, anyway, guys, if you're interested in this game, it is currently on Steam for €14.99, $17.99 US, or $13.99 British pounds, or your regional equivalent, whatever it might be. Thank you very much for watching. Hopefully this video wasn't too messy. If you enjoyed it, make sure to leave a like, drop a comment if you want to see me cover a specific game, or if you think I should change something about how I make my videos, because this is very much going to be me just throwing videos at the wall and see what sticks in whatever way I might, you know, in whatever way it might work. And while I do have several years of video making and streaming experience at this point, jumping back into it is still gonna be a little bit weird, and we're still gonna have to deal with, well, new to video creation again syndrome. So, anyway guys, thank you very much for watching. Have a very wonderful rest of your day, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Bye.